In our previous lesson, we discussed the 4 stanzas of the poem, the Pulley. Today, we will be discussing the different topics in the poem. These topics are what we refer to as themes. The first and main theme in the poem is God's supremacy over man. Can you remember Michael and John in our last lesson? At the point Michael was on the floor, John was superior to him because he could do what Michael couldn't, walking by himself. The poem sends a message that man should accept God as a supreme being because they would always depend on him to satisfy their needs. The poem asserts that man is nothing without God. The next theme in the poem is the frail nature of the human mind. In the poem, God as a supreme being and creator of man shows his absolute understanding of the man, his creature. God reveals that he knows the mind of man can be easily manipulated because it is weak. We get to learn that God knows that the moment man gets all he wants, he forgets his creator, leaving his mind easily accessible to negatives. Another thing present in the poem is God's desire that man should always look up to him, just like Michael had to look up to John to ensure he stands up. God wants man to always come to him, which is exactly why he refuses to give man rest, peace of mind. This way, making sure that man always worships and adore him. The last theme we'll be discussing today is God as the reason for man's restlessness. According to God in the poem, he would give man everything but rest. This reveals that no matter what men have, they would always want more. God has made man restless, so he would always run back to him. Now, we will be discussing the figures of speech and sound devices in the poem, The Pulley. I am certain that some of you who have seen pulleys before reading this poem began to imagine how it would relate to the body of the poem. Also, some of us that haven't seen a pulley immediately wanted to see a picture of it, just to be able to understand the poem better. The use of pulleys in the title is described as imagery, as it creates a mental picture. Another device prominent in the poem is dramatic monologue. We see this in the use of dialogues that reflect the presence of an audience in the poem. For instance, the use of "let us." In stanza 1, the poem tells the story of the creation of man, which is recorded in the Bible. This is referred to as biblical allusion. In line 4, the poet rearranges the normal order of words just to ensure it rhymes with line 2. The use of "which dispersed lie" instead of "which lie dispersed" just to ensure it rhymes with "by" in line 2 is referred to as inversion. In lines 6 and 17, you will notice the use of the same consonant letters at the beginning of words following each other. So strength and repining restlessness, this is called alliteration. In lines 19 and 29, we see the use of personification, and goodness and weariness were given human attributes, lead and toss. You would also notice the use of contrast in line 18, rich and weary. In the last line, the poet represents God with a body part, thereby representing his whole with a part of him, breast. This is called synedoche. And that's the end of this class.